It's all right. It's just the very beginning. Only one more second of clouds.
There we go. Besides, who doesn't love beautiful clouds?
Exactly.
Especially on a morning like today.
What do you got behind you?
So this is a cool map. A lot of people found this feature. I think I don't know if it was new or something like that. But it's. Let me open it up here on my end too, so I can give everybody the URL. It's earth.nullschool.net. earth.nullschool.net, and it's just a really cool visualization of weather. And so
it is
for those people who are kind of interested in kind of seeing the weather patterns around the world,
or you're on mushrooms right now.
That's right.
Just stare at this thing for a little while.
Yeah, so you could see the bomb cyclone, which I think is the most hilarious name for any kind of a weather system. The bomb.com cyclone.
That's funny.
What I want to call it.
That's funny.
But there you can see, of course, the weather patterns affecting the majority of the country right now. Very few green areas throughout the United States.
Speaking of green areas, when it comes to our levels on Mimo here, where should they be? Like, they're green in their half. Should they be higher? Should it be hotter?
They could be a little higher. Yeah, here I can turn it up a little bit.
Give me a little check test 1, 2,
and 3, 2, 1. You shouldn't need to adjust it over there in your.
I'm not touching anything. I'm not touching nothing.
Well, you should be. I hope you are.
Well, all right. I'm hitting a button. I'm obviously. I've got my fingers on the cameras again today because they are switching fast.
You switching and switching over there.
So I guess welcome to the Wake.Show, the Friday edition. Thank you so much for the shares and the likes. And as you can see, I'm in the controller's chair, the switcher's chair again today.
Or as I call it, the navigator's chair.
There we go. I like that. The navigator's chair.
Yeah.
And Jonny Torres is in the captain seat.
That's right.
All right. And this is his last day.
I know.
This is his last day.
So we might as well go ahead and put up, what should be the closeout song? Because this is a big deal. And I've been thinking about it. What should be our closeout song? Because it is the final show. Now, the cliche side of me, the predictable side of me, the side that like you and I do as mobile DJs often, we play to the audience, right? Because they're very predictable, while they may not believe themselves.
Hey, don't let them know that we know that they're predictable. They're all very unique, and they
no, they're not. Ushers, yeah, anybody?
Exactly. I got a phone call late last night going, "Hey man, are you available for a wedding on Saturday? It's 6 hours."
Oh man,
which is a big payday. I mean,
but is that everything? Is that like ceremony?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah. In Plant City, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Well, you may need the country version then of Ushers, yeah. Then
yeah, I'll find out. Yeah, so I'll be connecting with them today. For the very first time, the bride today, going, "Hey, so what do you want to do at your wedding tomorrow?" Who does that?
I love me some Plant City. They better have some Johnson's barbecue. That's what I'm talking about.
Who books? Who gets a wedding DJ 2 days out from their wedding?
Yeah, that's not a good situation there.
All right, so I don't know what to expect tomorrow. But.
It could have been that thing where maybe they had a DJ and then backed out. That happens sometimes,
Touche.
Because they'll get bigger gigs, right? And some DJs will cancel on the cheaper gigs.
I would never do that to you. Make sure you call Events Done Right today.
There you go.
I'll never back out on you. But you were talking, not to get off on that, but you were talking about, playing to the audience, and you want to pick your final karaoke song that we're going to do at the end of the show.
Well, I think people would expect me to do. Jeff makes a good suggestion.
Something
but I was going to say,
like.
Yeah, I figured people are going to be like, okay, we'll do Sinatra's My Way, right? Like that's to me that's the cliche, like kind of expected.
What about Mac the Knife?
I'm not a big fan of Mac the Knife.
Okay,
like it's a decent song, not crazy, but like people love that song. There's something about that song that I just never really.
All right. Well, I don't want to force you to do it. This is your last.
So,
you get to pick your song.
Yeah.
But go ahead and make the suggestions in the comments.
Well, Jeff's saying "Thanks for the Memories" by Bob Hope. Is that by Bob Hope, or is that just his saying? Is that a song?
I don't know Bob Hope.
I know it's Fall Out Boy.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Bob Hope sang.
I know Fisher's played that song a few times.
Which one?
"Thanks for the Memories" by Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
Sure, you played that on
a
the
couple
X.
times.
Yeah. All right, so good morning to Jeff. Lisa Kraft, good morning. And joining us first thing this morning, Lisa. I'm very excited, happy for you. Thank you for joining us. And Don Johnson sent me a friend request. I'm excited. Man, Don's a big fan of the show, and I'm a big fan of Don now. So,
well, I was a huge fan of Miami Vice, so I'm glad that he's watching our show years later.
It's gonna be hard. Like if I ever meet her, it's gonna be hard for me not to call her Don Johnson. Like it just rolls off the tongue. It just rolls off the tongue. Yeah. We'll see. So thank you everybody for watching. And again, if you're watching the show for the first time, the success of this show depends on your interactions. So feel free to shoot us a little good morning text there in the comments section. Like the show throughout the stream. Also, be sure to share this with your friends and family members. We greatly appreciate it. And despite being my last show, it is not Fisher's last show. Fisher will still continue to run things here, and he will continue to spearhead this exciting project. And we've got some exciting things happening behind the scenes as to who may be kind of taking over my role here.
Listen, man, there is what's that saying? Something to slip between a cup and a lip. Anyway, there's a lot of game to play. Let's put it there. There's a lot of game to play before we figure out who's going to come in here.
Maybe we'll do an open casting call. And
that's what I was talking to Will Cords about.
That's like, right. You did say that.
Let's turn this into some kind of a bit where we find, because we're putting together Tampa's next. I don't even know, because I come from radio, and so I have that radio sensibility about me.
Sure.
And it feels somewhat like radio, what we're doing, but it's obviously not. It's TV, and it's not. It's video.
I think we got to position it to where it is the most accessible morning show in Tampa Bay. Because we are broadcasting live right now on Facebook, which is how most of you watch us. We're also live on YouTube, and we're live on Periscope, which means we're also live on Twitter. And there is no other morning show in the Tampa Bay that's doing this. We are truly breaking ground here. Yeah, there's other shows on social media, right? But they're usually all one channel or the other, and they're not daily. We have blanketed what is known as social media in an effort to reach you, the audience.
Yesterday, Jonny showed me a similar show that's out there now, and it's one that BuzzFeed is doing. I know a lot of you are familiar with BuzzFeed, and it's put together well, but it's not great. It didn't blow me away, and there was some quirks about it too that I was kind of like, man, they could have done this better or could have done that better. But they might be doing the same thing we're doing, and that is feeling out, what it is exactly they're going to do with their show. So
well, and what's interesting too is to watch people like you and I who have broadcasting backgrounds, and then watching non-broadcasting people do a show, because neither of those guys seem like personalities, right? Like they didn't seem like they'd been broadcasters before.
No. Can I ask you a question? Yeah. I was watching back to the show yesterday, because I was controlling stuff, and I realized I don't know how to do the split screen.
Oh,
because sometimes you'll put up the split screen. That one day we had a guest on, you had a triple screen up.
Oh yeah,
triple split.
I don't know if you're ready for that, young Obi-Wan.
Oh, is that? I got to wait till after the show.
The triple screen is a little more complicated. I'll show you how to do that after the show. On this one, there's a little button next to on the Roland, next on the top, along the top row of the cameras. There's a little tiny square button, and if you hit that, that should initiate the. There you go.
Oh, I did it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So, and then the little dials, see how there's a dial.
Right next to it.
Right. If you tweak those, it'll adjust the camera position.
I probably shouldn't do this while I'm watching the live feed on Facebook. There's a delay.
No, you got to watch the Mimo version.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that fanciness. Well, heck, I like it. Let's keep it like this.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, so Jeff says it's an old song, 1938. Thanks for the memory. It became Hope's signature song. He used it to close his specials for years. So I thought so. I thought I'd seen that somewhere before.
So is that what you're thinking?
We'll see. I still think Sinatra's My Way might be the way to go.
And I know you think it's cliche.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. But like you were saying, there's a reason that we play the same songs over and over again. We're at weddings. There's just a reason you play the same songs over and over again, on the radio.
Sure.
That's what the people want.
That's what the people want. And don't worry, Don, I will not be calling you Crockett. She's like, just please don't call me Crockett.
Okay,
so.
Fair enough.
Hey,
All right, you want to get to stuff you should know?
Yeah, so
you
coming
got some
up,
other things you want to get off your chest before we get started?
No, we can definitely do stuff you should know. Coming up later this morning, if all goes as planned, which so far nothing is going as planned today. So, but we should be having my good friend Roy Siringo joining us, doing his weekly movie reviews. We'll see what he's been seeing over the past week or so. He sometimes will he'll hit, these movies, back to back. And so I think last time he was here, we talked about 2 or 3 movies. There's nothing massive coming out because we're coming off of the holiday weekend, but there's I'm sure some movie news to get excited about. So Roy Siringo and his movie review coming up later this morning. But first, stuff you should know. For January 5th, 2018, a monster nor'easter hammered the East Coast Thursday, bringing more than a foot of snow, leaving thousands without power and stranding still more air travelers as flights were canceled up and down the coast. The storm also pushed high tide to near record levels, prompting Boston's mayor to plead with drivers to stay off roads as parts of the city reported flooding in unexpected places. Forecasters expected the storm to be followed immediately by a blast of brutal cold that could break records in more than 24 cities this weekend. And as is now expected with social media, lots of videos of the flooding happening around Massachusetts or throughout Massachusetts, and it is unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about, I would say, a foot, 2 feet of water that these cars are trying to plow through. Crazily enough, there was somebody's video where they're shooting, down to the street. They look like maybe they were in an apartment building or an office building in the downtown area, and the dude delivering pizza in the middle of a flooded snowstorm.
Well, I heard our boys, your boys, Jack and Ted, this morning talking about a story where a guy walked 8 blocks because he just wanted a Wawa coffee so badly. He walked 8 blocks in the blizzard just to get a Wawa coffee.
Look, man, those walls start to close in. I'll tell you what, I got a new place, and my place is small, and if I had to be locked inside my place for more than, I'd say, about 6 hours, I'd start to get a little panicky too. I mean, it's just
I could definitely see going stir crazy, like, screw it, I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if you lost power or you don't have internet or that kind of thing to kind of take your mind off of it. Well, that didn't take long. The Dow closed above 25,000 for the first time Thursday, just 4 days into the new year and 5 weeks after blowing past 24,000. The economists say economists say you
My bad. Blame it on me. Blame it on me if I edited it wrong.
Economists say it
may. I'm sorry, boss. I'm sorry. Don't beat me, please.
Oh, you're gonna get it. Economists. Okay. Let's see. All right. So they're saying that it may have been the job market, housing, tax reform, maybe even the weather. But what fascinates me about all this, and they're saying, the question is, how long will this rise continue?
Oh, this was how it was supposed to read.
What goes up? Okay, go ahead.
This is how it was supposed to read. Economists say, you name it, it may have been a factor into the rise.
Oh, see?
I probably should have thrown in some commas there.
That's where, and again, it's your character, right? Your personality's in the writing, and so I wasn't understanding the context, so.
My bad.
And how long until we see a 30,000 Dow?
It's amazing.
It's crazy,
right?
It's going to get a little scary.
And you know how I hate that left wing, right wing stuff.
Yeah,
I hate the blame the media for everything, all that stupid crap. I hate, but man, I can't help but think that if this were the last president, the media would be doing nothing but focusing on how great everything is, how great the economy is, how great this president is.
Right.
But because of Trump, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a lot of the stuff he's getting. I don't know.
The narrative right now that they're trying to push is, look, see, the government has nothing to do with the economy.
Oh, right, but if Obama was in there,
all of a sudden, the government has nothing to do with the economy, and
please don't take that as I'm not a fan of our president.
Well,
I'm
and this
trying
is
to be
why,
open-minded about our president,
right.
but
Well, and we're seeing more and more companies, and we haven't talked about this here on the show. We're seeing more and more companies give out these $1,000 raises. And again, I go back to this being part of the coalition of CEOs that he built when he started, when he first got into office. A lot of people didn't like the fact that, again, these CEOs were going to meet with the president, but he is the president of the United States. They sat down with him. I'm sure they helped develop some of this tax reform bill. And what we are seeing now is that these companies are giving these $1,000 raises or bonuses, however they felt comfortable in doing so, to the people. And that money is going right back into the economy. I mean, this and the best part about it is it's not tax dollars. This isn't the stimulus plan that took taxpayer dollars and put it back into the economy. These are private dollars. This is money that these companies could have kept in their back pocket, and they're giving it back to their employees, putting it back into the economy because people are going to use it to pay off debt. They're going to use it to buy stuff. I'm sure a lot of that money got spent over the holidays, whether it's recreationally or for gifts. I think it's all of those things. I'm not saying that Trump is responsible for this, solely responsible for this economic surge, but I think it's all of the factors.
But but to say that he doesn't play a huge part in what's happened over the last year, would be, as they say, intellectually dishonest. Because as soon as he was elected, numbers started going through the roof, and those in the private sector, those in the and by the way, you can say. This is horrible for the world. Right. This is horrible for America. That's fine. We'll see how it plays out. But as it stands right now, those in the top, the corporate world and this and that, they've got a lot of the relief that they've been looking for years.
Yep.
And you will see how it. I mean, it doesn't feel right to me. Okay, but I'm not an expert or anything. I'm a college dropout.
And not that the economy was in bad shape, but if you look at also the other story that came out was how their what was it? Was it the highest number of jobs available posted, I think, in almost 20 years. And so in terms of availability of work, of jobs.
Yeah, and I'm sitting in here and doing this for free.
And
plenty of jobs out there now. I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning for free.
Well, I mean, and it seems like here in Tampa Bay, every week they're holding a job fair somewhere. And there are lots of companies out there looking to hire people. Anyways.
Have you ever been to one of those?
Once, I think.
Horrible. For a fair, they do not have good elephant ears or other fried goodies.
I'm not surprised. I'll make sure to let them know.
Thanks for the patronizing laugh.
Oh my God. So, it's not the tax reform, and let's come back to that. Let's come back to that. All right. Here's the big Trump story everybody's excited about. Publisher of Michael Wolff's new book about President Donald Trump announced it will be released earlier than expected due to unprecedented demand. And I'll put a little asterisk next to that, and I'll get back to it. We're moving the on-sale date for all formats of Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff to Friday, January 5th. That is today. At 9 a.m. from the current on-sale date of Tuesday, January 9th, a spokeswoman for the book's publisher, Henry Holt, told CNN Thursday. The decision came almost immediately after one of Trump's lawyers sent a cease and desist letter to Henry Holt and Wolff demanding the book not be released. And that was the asterisk that I was going to get back to. Is there going to be a lot of demand for this book? Yes. That is not why they're moving the date. They're moving the date because there is about to be a lot of legal action coming from this book, and
you don't think they're just
trying to get ahead of it.
You don't think they're just capitalizing on the moment? You think this is like, hey, get this out there before somebody stops us from getting it out there?
Yeah, we're talking about a difference of 4 days. I don't think 4 days would have made a difference in terms of book sales. If it would have been a month or 2 months, but 4 days, not a big deal unless you are talking about expecting legal documents to arrive at your doorstep within hours. And I think they're trying to get ahead of that. They're going to try to get as many copies of this book out there before some legal action does take place. And this will easily be, I would say, the topic of the day probably for the rest of the month. So get ready to hear a lot about that book because it's pretty nasty. But there's some pretty funny stuff going around on Twitter about it. There's this one guy who came up with a little story about how Trump demanded to watch Guerrilla TV when he first got into the White House, and so the White House had
wait, what's Guerrilla? Is that an actual channel?
No, but they're parodying the book. You know, and saying, that, this is like one of the big stories that's in the book. And it reads like a book excerpt, and saying how, his first week in office, he was frustrated because the TVs in the White House didn't have Guerrilla TV. And so the White House scrambled to put all this Guerrilla footage together so that he could have Guerrilla TV. Anyways. The owner of a building where 2 security guards were fatally shot two people after a party for teens on New Year's Day never got approval from the county to host New Year's Teen Pajama Jam. If there are 5 words that should never go together, it is New Year's Teen Pajama Jam.
Yeah, man. I think we'll come back to this story too.
Yep.
Hey, what happens when
Oh, you're moving the slider?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Back to you, John.
I don't use the slider. Just hit the buttons.
I didn't mean to.
I know.
My fat fingers hit the button.
There you
hit
go.
the slider.
Yeah.
So, all right. So anyway, back to
there's a lot.
Teen.
There's a lot to digest here. What?
Back to the teen pajama party you're talking about.
Oh my God! Again, 5 words should never go together. Is Teen Pajama Jam?
Well, then you see this, and it kind of makes you wonder the motivations behind the promoter of this and the owner of the facility, if they're going to allow a teen pajama party. Sounds like a kind of perversion. I mean, listen. It sounds like the kind of perversion that the law enforcement should get involved with,
It's no beach blanket bingo. I mean,
touche. Touche.
But you're right. Again, New Year's Eve party, pajama party, and teens, not happening in my book. Those are all things that should not be going together. Especially teens today. I think teens are exposed to a lot more, and I think they are sexualized a lot earlier than we were. And
well, they're getting a lot hotter younger.
I knew if I let that hang for just a second, it would sound horrible. And you walked right. You walked right into it. You did it on purpose.
You knew. You saw it coming.
Somebody's going to grab that clip someday, and so don't ever run for office, because that's the clip that they're going to use in that campaign. But
yeah, I'll be running for office.
Oh man, but let me see, where is the did I not open that? Yep, here it is. So and I'll open up a copy of that over here.
While you're doing that, I'll switch the story 1 to copy 4, and now we're on New Year's Teen Pajama Party.
There we go. And no, this is not a party that Fisher's hosting anytime soon. We're talking about the one that took place in Tampa. Was it in Ybor too? I mean, of all
50th Street. I don't.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
That's
to Ybor.
not. Yeah, that's a little farther east than Ybor.
It's an even shadier part of town than Ybor. Yeah. It's very industrial too, which is kind of weird. But again, the owner of the building said the 2 security guards that fatally shot 2 people after a party for teens on New Year's Day never got approval from the county to host such an event. County officials said the owner never notified the county that it would be used to host events like New Year's Teen Pajama Jam, a party that drew as many as 200 people on Monday night before the shootings, according to Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office estimate. It's the property's owner's responsibility to inform fire rescue anytime there's a change of use and or occupancy. Following Monday's incident, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue has informed the property owner that the space may not be occupied again for any use until the fire marshal has performed an inspection. So there's going to be a lot of lawsuits flying around on this. Not to mention that why would security guards for a teen party need to be armed? And I get it. Look, it's a shady part of town, right? Like, it's a rough part of town.
Well, if bullets started flying from a car.
So
now here's the thing. I was talking to a security expert yesterday because I wanted him on the show today to talk about this.
Okay.
Somebody that his credentials include the FBI and Homeland Security, and he runs an event security business here in town. And he did not want to come on to give his opinion about this because this is an ongoing investigation, and the details that he has about this are the same that you and I have.
Well, let me go down.
One thing that he did say. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One thing that he did say that he did not like about this story, didn't feel comfortable about with this story, is that one of those security guards, armed, was 18. And he talks about how he only hires, ex-military, or he's, military and law enforcement people that have training in this kind of stuff.
Right.
And he doesn't like the thought of an armed security guard with that little experience.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And so, again, as far as the context of the situation here, it says a series of fights inside the venue prompted the event's organizers to end it early, close the doors. Between 150 and 200 people were in the process of leaving the event when 2 armed security guards hired by the event organizers first heard fireworks, then gunshots. And see, I couldn't tell you the difference. A lot of these kind of sound the same to me.
Oh, yeah. There's no way I'm telling the difference between the two.
The guards, Keon Williams and Connor Harm, ironically is his last name, saw someone firing from a black sedan parked in front of the building and feared for their lives, returned fire, the sheriff's office said. The 2 occupants in the car, Jihad Grant, 25, and Jalissa Jackson, 15, were shot and killed. Detectives later found 2 handguns in the black sedan, a Nissan Sentra, and said evidence indicates both guns had been fired at the scene. Williams, 28, and Harm, 18, the guy you were talking about, have not been charged with a crime. Both were employees of Tampa-based Eagle One security force at the time of the shooting. The Times has been unable to reach the promoters of the event listed on the flyer. So we talked about team parties, and neither of us
all the time. You and I.
Yeah, that's all we do is talk about.
We get off there. We just sit around and talk about parties we like to throw for teens.
But look, I grew up in northern Miami-Dade County, and while my area where I lived was nice and it was very suburban, again, you go a couple streets over and you're in the rougher part of town. So Carroll City, and even going north, like into the Miramar area, like, again, these are rough parts of town. And I think for those reasons, there was a lot of crossover, between the school populations, because it was a densely populated area.
I mean, crossover between like teens and regular people?
No, crossover between different schools.
Oh,
and so that again is also just fuel for something to go wrong, because you have rivalries and all that stuff that fall into place. So I never went to any of those things. I mean, you always wanted to, right? But that was never going to happen in my
Maybe
house.
that's why we're so against these teen parties, because we were never allowed to go to these teen parties.
That's right. Shut them all down.
Yeah.
Damn it, for not letting us in. It's sad, but this is still prevalent. And there's still a lot of gang activity. I mean, and we talked a long time ago about what's happening in Chicago and why their murder rates are as high as they are. And at the end of the day, it comes back to gang activities. And so as unfortunate as this is, I'm actually shocked that it's not a more common thing. But there's obviously something here. Something motivated those 2 kids in that black sedan to come by and shoot up that place.
So I am looking at our comments there, Jonny Torres,
Yeah.
on your final day here on the Wake.Show. And Chris Brown says, "Good morning, fellas. Man, I would say you should have adult interns as a joke, but the radio still has those." LOL. Listen, I think interns will definitely be. Just shock myself.
You all right there?
Yeah, just shock myself.
What, are you doing electrical work back there?
Now, yeah, do my ring finger. By the way, this is what I hate about the cold weather is the trepidation when you're going to greet somebody of the hug or the handshake.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it because I'm afraid to get shocked.
See, to me, that's like a constant thing because my daughter is obviously now very playground centric. She loves going to the playgrounds. And sure enough, every time she goes down that slide and I go to pick her up, I get that static pop.
I let her hit the ground at that point. You're on your own, little V.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you have any nicknames for her?
Valentina? No.
Yeah.
No.
You say Valentina every time?
I do.
You don't say like V-Rock?
No.
Hey, what's up, V-Little?
No, and that comes from my own upbringing. I didn't have a nickname until I got into radio. I shortened it to Jonny. I chose to shorten it to Jonny because social media, you were very limited as to how long your username could be, and putting out Jonathan on everything was way too long, and so I shortened it to Jonny Torres.
So Up until in recent years, you used your full name, Jonathan.
Up until I started in radio, yeah.
Wow.
Until I started in radio, I had like a couple of radio names, but they never stuck. And then when I finally hit on Jonny Torres, I just kept that, and all my social media platforms are Jonny Torres.
So now that you're going to go work for the senator,
Yep.
Marco Rubio. I wanted to make sure it's Marco Rubio, not Mark O. Rubio.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio, will you be going back to Jonathan? Will your business cards and your name tag say Jonathan?
No, typically all of my business cards. I think even my business card here, Bake More Pie, says Jonathan.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Jonathan.
It's purely a social media. It's purely a social media or radio thing to go by Jonny. So that's also how I can tell like how I've met people or how they know of me or that sort of thing is typically because who calls me Jonathan and who calls me Jonny.
Yeah. I know the feeling. People that call me Chris versus people that call me Fish.
Yeah.
Versus people that call me College Boy, which goes way back early days of my radio career.
That's right. Well, we talked about how, even one of my closest friends who I met through radio, I still till this day call him by his radio name, even though I know his real name. And that's so common among radio personalities.
Well, I told you that one of my brothers calls me Fish. His last name is Fish, Fisher, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And when Fish. And then when I go home, by home I mean Ocoee,
yeah,
where I was born and raised. If there's a gathering, and there's people from back in this and this, and I hear Fisher or Fish, they're not talking about me.
No.
They're talking about my other brother, Jason. So, a great story. Now back to you, Jonny.
All right. So, man, I'm slacking. I got to tighten up on this stuff you should know. We totally went off on the, I thought the Pajama Jam was my last story, but
no, it is not.
No, I have two more stories.
There's a very important story you need to get to.
Come on, Navigator. You're supposed to be like keeping me in line over here.
Well, it's hard to get off that New Year's teen pajama party story.
You still thinking about that?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Fisher, don't worry about your Diet Coke addiction there, buddy.
What? Tell me more.
Yes, Teresa Rowley of Grand Rapids, Michigan just celebrated another birthday on January 1st, 2018, and she's sharing her secret to longevity, drinking lots and lots of Diet Coke. I almost have a feeling you might have written this. I'm going to have to look at the byline on this. She consumes at least 1 can a day and has no intentions of slowing down. I drink it because I like it. The centenarian told WZZM, I'm going shopping Wednesday and I need more Diet Coke. I have a bag full of empty Diet Coke cans that I need to return to buy more Diet Coke.
104 years old.
Does she have some sort of special deal that she's worked out where, she exchanges the empty cans for full ones or...
Maybe once you cross that 100 mark, you get those privileges.
Hey, Teresa was born in 1914, a whole 68 years before the soda's debut.
Wow.
That's an incredible run. But you hear this, and this is why I think I have... and I'm glad we're not having Eric on the show today because you hear this at least once a year where you have somebody who's over 100 years old and they go, hey, what's the secret to life? And, and they'll be like, well, I smoke a cigar every day and I eat, a steak 3 times a week. And it's so I think we don't have as much control over our health as we'd like to believe.
I agree with you 100%.
You just want to drink more Diet Coke.
Well, you're right. You're right. But, like earlier in the year, there was, I think, another centenarian or whatever they call them out of Italy.
Yeah.
And she said that the secret to her longevity was having multiple fried eggs a day or something like that.
Yeah.
But, you never hear them go, oh, no, I've exercised all my life. Right. You cut out fats and carbs. I hardly ate any sugar. Do you ever, ever, ever see that when they go to these people that are over 100 years old? No.
Yeah. And yet you hear the old it's not a wives' tale, but it's kind of the old folklore of the guy who runs marathons and gets the heart attack. That kills.
It's going to happen. It's but out of the millions of people that run like that, you get one guy here, one guy there that has a bad heart.
Yeah. Well, I believe when it's your turn to go, it's your turn to go.
Are you like Donald? You feel like you just have you're like a battery, and there's only so much energy, and whether you can zap that energy early on in life, or you can extend that energy throughout the rest of your days.
I think yes. I think on a normal timeline, yes. I think you do. Your body's already programmed to live for a certain amount of time. Huh. What I do believe even more so is that and it's not religious. It's not. I don't even know. I think there is something that, again, if it is your destiny to die at a certain time and place, like that is what
that's religion, man.
That is what you were destined for.
Come on, yeah. If you're talking fate and destiny, then there's got to be some kind of. Then you're talking religion. I don't know which religion, but you're talking religion one way or another.
Look, I mean, you hear the stories about the people who survived 9/11, and then a few weeks later something else happened, and they didn't die in that thing, and then it's not your time to go. Or you hear these people that are in these horrific crashes or natural disaster, whatever it is, and they somehow survived, and it's almost unexplainable as to how they survived. Or the people that do end up in a car crash or an airline crash or in some sort of unfortunate incident. And I think when it's your turn to go, it's your turn to go.
Okay.
I don't think it's as much by chance as we'd like to believe, but I don't know. I know it's a bit of an odd.
No, it's not. I mean, that's kind of that. I mean, what you're doing, what you're stumbling into right now, which we can't really delve into because it gets way off track.
Right.
People get angry really quickly, but you really are talking. Ultimately, you're saying, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are we here, and why is all of this happening the way that it's happening? So.
Good morning, Sarah, checking in from Minnesota again, and we hope it's a little warmer up there for you.
I doubt it, man. It was 30. Did you check your car temperature this morning?
36.
Yes.
Yeah.
36 degrees.
Still in the mid-30s here to kick off the day in Tampa Bay, and I think yesterday wasn't too bad once it hit like mid-50s. It was pretty nice out. I actually dropped one of my layers, my thick jacket.
Oh, buddy, I slept.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Probably slept good, too.
I laid down. I don't remember what. I think it was like 2-ish or something like that. Was when I finally was able to relax yesterday.
Yeah.
And listen, and if you people are like, what do you mean lay down at 2:00 in the afternoon? Had a gig until almost 1:00 in the morning the night before, and then I get up at 4:30 in the morning. There's not even 3 hours worth of sleep in between that, and so you're a little tired. Plus I had a gig last night, so I get over like 2.5 hours worth of sleep time, like a nap, right? Solid.
Yeah.
Nope. Woke up like, you wake up feeling like you never went to sleep, but you just, I don't know. It's one of those things where you feel worse getting up than when you lay down.
Got it. Right.
I don't know if you've ever been there or not.
Yeah. No, I get it. And then sometimes the power naps make you feel like you slept 8 hours and you're good to go.
Yeah, sometimes you lay down for 15 minutes or something like that, close your eyes just for a minute, and you pop up, you're like, all right, ready to take on the day, let's go.
Yeah. So, all right, in the longest stuff you should know ever, the Tampa Bay Lightning's win streak came to an end when the Canadians' Paul Byron scored in a shootout, and Montreal... What? Oh, the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, got it.
All right, sorry.
No, I'm reading Canadiens and Montreal. I'm like, wait a second, aren't those two different teams? But goes to show you how much I know about hockey. So, again, the Tampa Bay Lightning's win streak came to an end when the Canadiens' Paul Byron scored in a shootout, and Montreal beat the Lightning 2-1 Thursday night. So, a little tip of the hat to my buddy Paul Vaillancourt, who watches us from Montreal. And I was kind of hoping to play the little. But that's on your laptop, anyways.
Wait.
I would play the little lightning. Little lightning chant, fight song thing.
I'll just plug my laptop into the equipment over. I'll just start tinkering with the wires and see what happens over here.
There you go. So that is the longest stuff you should know ever. And let's kind of dive back in. We talked a little bit about the teen pajama party shooting. By the way, you got a little typo there in the stuff you should know.
Lightning's sin.
I don't know what the Lightning did wrong, but their sin streak has ended.
But you're saying that I should not go in and correct this in the middle of the show because
that might be okay, but
are you? Don't chance it. Will it sin stay? Because here's the thing: when we first started the show, we were doing the test shows. For those of you that go back, was it November?
Yeah,
beginning of November. It seemed like if we went to correct this kind of stuff after the show was already on, that it would then freeze up or crash the system. So I don't know if we want to take that chance.
Right.
Unless you want.
Go ahead and try it. Yeah, that should be okay. If the show goes off the air, I'll take total credit for it.
All right.
Oh, man.
Well, the camera's on you. You can keep talking. It's on you.
All right, so going back to one of the biggest stories of the week that you're going to be hearing about incessantly, again, publisher of Michael Wolff's new book about President Donald Trump announced it'll be released earlier than expected due to unprecedented demand. They are moving the on-sale date for all formats of Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff to today, January 5th at 9 a.m. So you've got a little over an hour to get over to your local Barnes & Noble, if that's still a thing. No, there's still Barnes & Noble. There's Books and Books is either moving or closing. You know, they're a great little bookstore there in South Tampa. You know, that's I don't know, it's worrisome. Because again, I'm a capitalist, but at the same time, you see kind of how, you know, these massive companies are moving, and you see what Disney's doing, and you see what Facebook is doing, and now there's a rumor going around that Amazon is possibly
going to be buying Target.
Yeah,
that can't make. You got to think there is some antitrust violations there.
Well, they bought Whole Foods, right? Was it that they bought last year?
Yeah,
and
but that's not Target, you know.
Well, but the food side obviously complements the supermarket side of what Target does. But again, Target, major national retailer, and it's amazing to see what started off as a bookstore, an online bookstore, and, you know, how it's evolved into this global retail giant, and is now positioning itself to possibly buy Target, a retail store. So there are people saying that, you know, Amazon was going to kill retail, and I think there's always going to be a need for retail. I just don't think it'll be on the scale that, or in the shape and form that we know it as today. So,
okay, well, it is fascinating because you are a capitalist, so it's interesting to me that you're torn when it comes to certain parts of the way that capitalism, you know, plays out.
Well, I think what's going to happen is there's always going to be these mom and pop businesses. They're just going to have to figure out exactly how to compete in this space. I mean, there's a cool little bookstore downtown in downtown Tampa, and that place has been there for a long time. They're obviously making it work somehow, and so you know, there's something about how you position yourself, you know, to, again, you know, look at ice cream stores, right? You can go to the supermarket and buy ice cream, but yet you can also go to Haagen-Dazs, or you can go to a local ice cream shop and still, you know, pick up a couple scoops if you want. I don't know. I think it's when you see the Walmarts and Targets and that sort of thing kind of move in, and you see the effect that it has on like small businesses and that, you just, you know, I'm torn, because there is something very cool about locally owned businesses. But at the same time, these massive retail companies also do a lot of good for a community, because they often bring in goods and services and products that these communities might not have access to.
You know, I was a kid back in the 80s when they broke up, was it Bell? The telecommunications phone.
Oh yeah,
you know,
sure.
They broke them up, and that's
like
when
Southern Bell, and
that's when AT&T was able to you know come into being and all that. Listen, I forget the detail. I was a kid when it happened. I forget the details, but you know, from my perspective, you know, throughout my life, I thought that was the right thing to do. You know, you can't let a corporation get too big, because then they can run everything. But now in my later years, and I've heard more people like you know, capitalists who have laid out some very interesting arguments to me over the years. You wonder if we're going to pick this system, if you just let it play out somewhat unfettered. And although, yes, it would be brutal, like, you know, if you don't get in, well, the getting's good, and get lucky, and yes, get lucky. I don't care how hard you work, what great ideas you have, there is a lot of probability involved in your success. A lot of things out of our control when it comes to that, okay?
Well, look, I mean, who would have thought that after 10 years, MySpace would have not gone away, because it's since come back.
Everybody.
You thought it was, you knew it was going to fall away. You knew it was going to die.
I think back then, you know, all of those things in my head, you know,
were trends.
Everything. Yeah, this is a phase, another phase. The next one's going to come, and it did. You know, Facebook.
See, I don't think Facebook's going anywhere. I think Facebook's going to be around longer than you and I will.
I think you're right.
Maybe not in its current form. Maybe somebody does come along and buy it, but what is Facebook, Amazon, these companies are going to be the global giants of the 21st century. Did that fall? There we go.
Hey.
So, all right, well, back to the book. So the book comes out here in about an hour. And, of course, if you are in the Twitterverse, that's all anybody's talking about because excerpts of the book are coming out. And it's there's a lot of stuff in there that, again, they're already making fun of because it seems a little hard to swallow even for the Trump administration. It seems like a little unrealistic. Bannon is denying, at least some of the accuracy of what's in the book. There's a lot of, and it pretty much seems like the book is just about to discredit Donald Trump and who he is and what he's trying to accomplish.
Let me get to the New York Times article here, and then you comment on the things that pop out because Trump threatened legal fire.
Yeah.
And fury on Thursday in an effort to block a new book portraying him as a volatile and ill-equipped chief executive. But the publisher defied his demand to halt its release and instead moved up its publication to Friday because of soaring interest. Angry at the publisher's refusal to back down, Mr. Trump took aim late Thursday night. So did you see these tweets last night? Were you up?
A little bit.
Okay. Trump took aim late Thursday at the book's author, Michael Wolff, and one of his primary sources, Stephen K. Bannon. About the president and his family and stirred deep resentment in the Oval Office. Quote, I authorized zero access. This is the tweet, by the way. I authorized zero access to White House, actually turned him down many times for author of phony book. Mr. Trump wrote on Twitter shortly after or before 11 p.m. last night, I never spoke to him for a book full of lies, misrepresentations, and sources that don't exist. Look at this guy's past and watch what happens to him and Sloppy Steve. Unquote.
Sloppy Steve.
Sloppy Steve.
Gotta love the nicknames.
I did for a minute, man. It was funny. It was funny in the beginning of the primaries,
for like a minute.
Yeah, when I wasn't taking Trump seriously, and I just thought it was great that he was shaking stuff up.
Lying Ted,
and
Little Marco.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What was it, Boring Jeb or whatever, Boring Bush or whatever it was, Sleepy Jeb or whatever. But now I don't want, because here's the thing, man. When people, especially Trump supporters defend this kind of stuff and say, yeah, well, what about this and what about that? I'm like, hold on a second here. We're talking about the President of the United States of America, all right? We are expected to raise our children in a certain way, to act a certain way in public and when they're dealing with other people. And so when you have the president acting a way that you would discipline your child, you would say, no, you don't act, we don't act that way in our household. But then defend that guy when he's your president because of ideological reasons.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Now, if you think I'm piling on this guy, I'm not, because to me, this also goes back to Bill Clinton and that president sitting in the Oval Office, and next thing you know, we're having discussions about oral sex in the Oval Office, when we shouldn't be having those discussions.
Well, and I wonder if it's almost, and it's unfortunate that we even have to say this, right? But you bring up Clinton, and then you bring up Trump. And obviously, I don't think we didn't have these issues with President Bush or President Obama. But it's almost as if, should we not be holding these guys in as high regard as we do? Should we not be holding them as the standard bearer for our culture and our society as role models or people to look up to for our children?
Well, I guess that's the positive side to this, even though it's not going to seem like the positive side. The positive side is I do believe this modern age has unveiled honesty and truth in Washington, D.C. and in the White House, because you can go back, oh, this stuff would have never happened with so-and-so, pick your president, who was alleged Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, you can't twist history as much as you used to.
Right.
Some people still will,
But I think this is the kind of stuff that if we had social media, if we had the cameras and the access and all the other stuff over the years, we would have found out similar disgusting things about all of our presidents, nearly all of our presidents. That was something that we just really didn't like. So my point is this. we have a tendency, we can't help it. It's the way that our brain works. But once somebody's on television, once somebody is a politician or a clergyman, they're up there on that stage with the microphone, something registers in our brain that they're elevated. We will now sit here and take the submissive position to the alpha. They're obviously the alpha because they're there and I'm here. And so
well, it goes back to celebrity culture. You know, they surround themselves with people who all they do is
sycophants.
Yeah, and praise them and assist them or serve them at their beck and call, and that eventually bleeds into your psyche to believe that you are infallible, that you are immortal in some ways, you know, that you can do no wrong. And I think he truly believes that. And he's gotten away with it. Look at everything that transpired during the election and look how much he got away with. He broke every political rule in the book, every single one. And I still was able to win the election.
You were talking about peeling back the rug and whatnot yesterday. And to me, Donald Trump, he kind of symbolizes, again, what I think there has been a lot of Donald Trumps that have been in government over the years here in America, around the world.
Sure.
But the difference is they all, the others, they didn't just fly off the hip, and they knew, you know, when to have their sex parties. And I'm drawing parallels like Donald having sex parties, and it's not fair. But they would basically, they were the same kind of person that you hate about, Donald Trump, but they knew better than to show it in public. Where I think this guy, because of who he is, we don't need to throw out the term narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. And so all of those things that the past presidents, and I'm not saying Obama's like Trump and Bush was like Trump and, Reagan was like Trump. I'm saying there was enough of those guys in our past that either rose to the level of the presidency or somewhere in the Senate or the Senate or the House or governors or whatever, and were very similar. If you were to know all the stuff behind, closed doors, behind the scenes, and so I don't know. I think this is a peeling back of layers and that rug that you were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
And showing us what has been going on in
and
Washington
all these guys
for centuries.
All these guys have been incredibly fallible. They've been very flawed men that have led our country. Even as storied and as fairy tale as the Kennedy White House was, it's no secret that he would have women over and that there was a lot of excuse me, salacious things happening in the White House that he was directly involved in, and it's unfortunate because we don't want to think of our leaders that way, but it is what it is,
and that is the biggest point: is that just because somebody ends up with $1 billion doesn't mean that they're better than you.
No,
or that they're more moral than you, or that they're smarter than you.
But you know
or that
what?
They're more driven than you. Just because somebody ends up president doesn't mean that they are better than you, that they are more moral than you, that they are smarter than you.
Sure, but to that point, and that because we were talking about American exceptionalism the other day and what makes America great, right? What makes America better than most countries throughout the world. And it's exactly the point that you just made, because if Donald Trump were running, let's say, Colombia, right? So a reference that I can directly point to, he would be able to get away with anything and everything, and these things wouldn't come out in the press, and these and these guys would be treated as holier than thou. If you have money, if you are successful in most other countries, you are treated as though you are infallible. You are allowed to get away with more than the average citizen, because money is what runs those countries. And here, money is not the great equalizer. Here, our freedom is the great equalizer. And so, like you said,
I think you're being a little idealistic, but I'll keep listening. Continue.
Yeah, yes, of course, money's going to get you better lawyers, and it's going to maybe get, maybe not get you, as long a prison sentence and that sort of thing. But
freedom is the great equalizer.
I think freedom in many ways is the great equalizer, because you don't feel obligated, right? Like as a society, you're not in fear of The media is not afraid to challenge the president. The media is not afraid to challenge all the leaders of our government. And like you said, just because someone has power or has money in this country, it doesn't make them better than you or I.
But I mean, going way back in humanity, in civilization, it's very common for us to think that just because you're the president or the king, or because you got $1 billion, that you must be doing something right. Hell, my own wife has that mentality of sitting there talking about somebody. Well, he's worth 150. He must be doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's only if you look at the world. The only thing that's important to you is money, is cash, because you think that having money equals security. And it can a certain amount of security, but it can also highlight, the horrible parts of your characteristic or your character as well.
Yeah. In all of this, it looks like NBC going to come out the big winner as well with the book Fire and Fury being released later this morning. NBC News exclusive, Michael Wolff to appear on the Today Show today. With Hoda Kotb, the new co-host of the Today Show, with Katie Couric's carbon copy. What's her name? Savannah Guthrie.
Sure.
And he'll be on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd on Sunday. Wolf's first TV interview on his new book, Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, airs live Friday, January 5th on NBC's Today. Wolf also exclusively joins Meet the Press with Chuck Todd Sunday, January 7th. And then Wolf's first cable interview airs live on MSNBC's Morning Joe, Monday, January 8th. So NBC, a big winner in this whole situation here. I wonder if somehow the publisher is tied to NBC, again, as these corporate conglomerates tend to be all kind of joined at the hip. So they're gonna be, this book's gonna be massive. There's no doubt about that. And they're right behind me on the TV screen. You can see the tweet from Michael Wolff. He says, "Here we go. You can buy it and read it tomorrow. This, thank you, Mr. President." This was at 4:00 yesterday.
Because Wolff here, he doesn't. Whatever legal actions that the president had threatened, it doesn't affect him at all because he's not bound to any kind of confidentiality agreement. If anybody's going to be affected by this, it's going to be Steve Bannon, except they're saying that there is slander in this book. But if it's not the publisher slander, if the publisher's just publishing it, I don't see how they get held accountable.
And even him being the author, he'll claim that he's just publishing what he was told. And so I think that gets him off the hook. You're right. I think Bannon's going to be the one to suffer the most from this book and probably a few others. But he's also going to be a very, very wealthy man after today.
All right. I got other books that I'm going to be reading. I'm going to be reading something. What's the most popular book of all time outside of the Bible? It's allegedly the How to Influence People and Make Friends.
Oh yeah, Dale Carnegie. That's right.
Yeah, that's a book that I
So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's, because I think somebody from Carnegie is coming by today to drop off those books for me.
Okay, because you had a meeting with them yesterday.
Yes, I did.
And so for those of you who may be scratching your head a little bit, here at Bake More Pies, it's one of the things that Cords Owen, the owner of the agency, loves to do. He sends all of his staff members to a Dale Carnegie training. And Dale Carnegie is one of the world-renowned leaders in business development and training. And of course, he wrote one of the most popular books Dale Carnegie did in all of publishing history. Which is How to Make Friends and Influence People, something like that. I think it's close.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, and it is something that was transformative for Cords, and it has had a very, very positive impact here on those of us in the office.
I got it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I said make friends, but
the other one is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Yep.
This is the other one she's bringing by.
You definitely need that one.
It's true. It's true. And the quick and easy way to effective speaking. So there we go. Cool. And I'm gonna take that course coming up at the end of the month, a 3-day immersion course. Now, I guess ideally you want to take spread it out over 8 weeks.
Yeah, I did the 8-week course.
I mean, I would love to do that, except that the next course, it's Wednesday nights, and that's when I got Park and Rec. So unless you want to go cover Park and Rec and host karaoke for 8 straight weeks.
Well, not only that, you live way out in Pinellas, and the classes are here in the West Shore district of Tampa, and so also logistically, that'd be pretty demanding on you to be coming over every week.
And well, I mean, I would do it because
I know you would do it. I'm not questioning that
it.
You wouldn't do it.
You swear by
Yeah.
it. There's 2 other people in the office. They're like, man, you have to take this course. It changes everything.
Well, you talked to someone who did the 3-day course, and I know she's a private person, so I won't mention her by name, but
right.
Of all of us, I would say it probably had the most impact on her, and it's been, and that's exactly why he believes in it so much.
It's funny though, because the person I was talking to from Carnegie, I guess they sit down with you before you take this class, and they want to know your needs and which class you should take and all this stuff. And like, I don't know, a dozen times in that 45 minutes, I'm like, you know what? I probably should just go get therapy. I probably should just get a psychologist instead, or probably a psychiatrist instead, get on some drugs.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't know if Carnegie's going to be able to help me with my issues. This morning, Jonny comes in, and this is his last day, right? It's Johnny's last day. This couldn't happen. Everything that's happening right could not have happened without Jonny Torres over the past couple of months. And I'm going to miss him. So this morning, I should be in this great mood, ready to have a great last show with Jonny Torres. And he comes in, and there's nothing but negative energy coming from me, and I can't stop it. I'm riddled with anxiety, crushing anxiety this morning that I can't push through until we hit go live. And that's the weird thing about we hit go live, boom, all goes away, focus, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
But the reason that it was such a debilitating anxiety this morning, or actually I don't even know, to be honest, to be fair.
It is, though. It is debilitating. I think that's the right word.
It is debilitating.
Because I walk in and you are slumped in the chair, looking like someone just harmed one of your puppies.
Right. And it's because, we have this, our first client in Roux, R-O-U-X, restaurant here in Tampa, comes aboard a few weeks ago. And then Cords, the owner, the guy that supports the show, basically turns the account over to me. He says, you're going to be the account manager. Now, many of you are salespeople. You're account managers. You know what this is like. And I just have completely dropped the ball on staying connected with these people. Why? Now, this is where I'm going to go to explain where the best I can. But I think that what I'm getting ready to say is completely false. Like, not true. This is just me trying to figure out why it is that it's so crushing in these moments.
Yeah.
So even this morning, when Jonny came in, I was trying to send an email to our people over at Roux and be like, hey, Happy New Year. It's as simple as this. This is what I wanted to do, Jonny. Hey, Happy New Year. Now that we've got, through the end of the year and all the craziness, let's get you guys back in the air. We still have some more, we want to fulfill our agreement to you. Very simple. Just all I gotta do is type that.
Harmless, no pressure.
It seems so easy.
Yes.
Yet I go and I hit the email, I type in her name, and then that feeling, this thing it almost feels like an external force grips the left side of my body, like my torso. All right, and crushes, goes like this, and I double over. And there's a physiology that goes along with it.
So what is what's going through your mind? Like, what is it mentally that you are thinking is preventing you? Because it's not just physical, right? There's something psychological that is telling you that is telling you not to send this email. Is it because you haven't been reaching out? Is it just the communication? Is it fear of rejection? Is it?
So if to explain this is the only thing I can come up with. It goes, I don't know, that somewhere between I'm bothering them, or no, I'm bothering the person that I'm getting ready to communicate with. And I don't know these people, right? But even to the people that I do know, that I've had relationships with for years, business relationships, I still can't do that if I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So I explain it like I feel like that I'm bothering them. And then I guess that I'm not worthy of whatever. I don't know. It's psychological. That's why when I'm sitting there having this discussion, and Cords is so generous to go, hey, man, let me put you through this. I'll give you a scholarship. You don't even have to pay for it. I'll put you through this course. I think it'll help you that much. What I'd like to do Jonny Torres, and I know you're leaving. You got bigger things, bigger fish to fry. You're heading off to work for the government starting on Monday, and you'll be overseeing 6 counties here in Southwest Florida, which is amazing.
Thank you.
But I think that if I can, in coordination with this class that's coming up at the end, get in to see somebody, a therapist, and also pull the trigger and go back to my tea doctor to get the tea that I need, I think those 3 things will get me to where I need to go. But I can't make the phone call to the therapist because of, right, I need to call somebody for anxiety. But that same anxiety shuts me down as I go to make a simple phone call. It's not even a simple phone call, because to me, then I have to go online. I got to go to Blue Cross Blue Shield, look up a therapist that is covered, and then start making phone calls from there.
Well, then you got to go through the list of people in there who you have no idea who they are,
right?
And basically just kind of Russian roulette it and hope that you pick somebody you like.
Did I tell you about how I called the same therapist 3 times over like a month, and they never called me back? All right, so I won't delve into that. But this is such a difficult thing for me to do. But I was in a bad place when I got let go right before we started the show.
Yeah.
And so I tried to, somebody had made a recommendation. So how did I call that person? Because somebody I knew went, I go to this person. They're amazing when it comes to this. It's perfect for you. So I call this therapist and leave a message. Never get a call back. And it's such a hard thing for me to do that it takes me weeks to call back again. Still, they don't call me back. I try it one more time. Again, it takes me weeks to get up enough nerve to call again. They don't effing call me back. Jonny, in those times, there was a part of
and that's just worsening the situation.
Yes, because in my brain, I'm going, I'm trying to get help, and this effer won't even call me back. And there's part, just kill yourself. Screw it. Screw everybody. And I don't want to, listen, it's Friday, and I'm not trying to bring everybody down and start talking about suicide and shit. But then things start to spiral, and I have to hang on there until whatever. So now months have passed, and I haven't reached out again.
Well, see, and my concern is this, because when I sent that email yesterday, it was a conversation that, it just came to mind to me. It just kind of, I was like, you know what, we haven't had them on in a while. No, actually, Mike, who sits next to me here at the office, he's like, hey, have you guys reached out to Rue? And I said, no, you know what, we haven't had them on. I said, let me shoot Chris an email and see, because you said at one point, I think last week or the week before, that you had reached out to them, but she hadn't reached back out to you. So
last Friday, Cords was like, "Hey, man, we had this conversation." He goes,
right.
And so after the conversation, I look him right in the eyes and go, "All right, I'll email her as soon as I leave here." And in my head, I mean it. I can see it, I can do it, but then again, as soon as I open the laptop, something happens. I don't know.
See, and my concern is this, and not to dwell on this much longer, but my concern is this, is that you are so incredibly talented, but this is only going to continue to consume you until something is done about it, and it's going to start to bleed into this. It's going to start to affect.
It has today. Look, we're sitting there talking about this nonsense over the last 10 minutes when we could talk about all the cool stuff that's happening in the news today.
Yeah, well, it's bleeding in that respect, right? Because we're having a discussion about it, but I'm also concerned about at what point does it reach? Do your anxiety levels reach to the point where you can't do this show, where the anxiety of just doing the show will get to you?
For some reason, man, this has been my comfort zone. The show itself.
Yeah, but so at what point do you start to develop anxiety about show prep? At what point do you start to develop anxiety about turning on the cameras? And I think it's a growing thing inside of you.
You're right. I have to be careful.
It starts off small, like you were saying about the mailbox, right? You told the mailbox story a while back, how somehow you developed this anxiety about your mailbox, and how it got to the point where you were physically contracting when you were even close to the mailbox. Again, it grows, right? And I think it's going to continue to grow until you start to do something about it.
All right, so we're making moves. We've got the Carnegie class at the end of the of the month. I need some help. just making a phone call to get into a therapist.
Well, we're gonna try to see if maybe again another friend of the show, accelerated resolution therapy might be something for you. I mean, they do post traumatic stress. That's kind of their forte.
Don't they focus on just veterans or
no? I mean, their program is so effective that has been incredibly effective for veterans. And that seems to be where they're having the most success. But this is really for anybody who is struggling with post-traumatic stress. And so maybe there was something that triggered all of this, and I think maybe they'll be able to get down to it.
All right, let's get to anything else besides me and my issues.
All right, here's a couple stories that caught my attention. And
by the way,
yeah,
I was able to make that edit that we were talking about earlier that crashed the system where we thought.
I saw it. Yeah,
able to do it. And we stayed on the stream. So
the lightning no longer sinning.
Nope.
So,
and I don't know if it goes back to when we first started doing this, if you tried to make those edits while it was still engaged.
Yeah, just the edits I was making were a little bit more substantial, and I think that's when it freaked out. Yeah. So no, I think that was good. I mean, I mean that's a positive that it didn't freak out on you. So some unfortunate news, especially for someone like myself who's a big fan of game shows and game show hosts. Alex Trebek taking medical leave from Jeopardy after a fall that requires blood clot surgery. He's taking medical leave following surgery to remove blood clots from his brain after a fall. Wearing a Jeopardy baseball cap, yellow sweater, and jeans, a subdued Trebek, 77, left a video message on the Jeopardy YouTube channel Thursday explaining his condition and promising a quick return to hosting the quiz show. Some of you may have heard by now that during the holiday break, I had a slight medical problem, Trebek said in the video. The fall he endured about 2 months ago caused a subdural hematoma or blood
Watch
clots
your language.
or blood clots on the brain, he said. Trebek underwent surgery in December. After 2 days in the hospital, I came home to start recovery, said Trebek. The prognosis is excellent, and I expect to be back in the studio taping more Jeopardy programs very, very soon.
Did you see the controversy a couple of days ago?
About him?
Gangsta Paradise.
Oh, the Gangsta Paradise, yeah.
We didn't talk about that, did we?
No, but man, I felt so bad for that guy.
I think that's, I mean, I get it.
I look, I know better, right? Like, I know that the name of that song is Gangsta's Paradise, but if I'm sitting on Jeopardy in a suit and I'm trying to win a game show, I'm not going to say Gangsta's Paradise. I'm going to say
because you feel like you're speaking slang.
Yeah.
Right.
And they knocked him down like $3,000, for saying gangster instead of gangsta.
Yeah, talking about
that wasn't cool.
Yeah. So he answers Gangster's Paradise, and the thing is that they gave it to him. Ding.
Originally, they gave it to him, yes.
And it was 30 seconds or a minute late. They'd already gone through another question or two or something.
Which I think they shouldn't have done. They shouldn't. Once they move on to the next question, I think they should have just left it as it was.
Although I do think it's ridiculous, I also understand the way that Jeopardy runs their stuff, and they I guess they have this dictionary, and if it's in there,
yep,
then that's what they go by. So gangsta and gangster are separate in their dictionary, I guess.
Right.
And I have two different meanings, I guess. So
I guess it's all about accuracy, right? The accuracy in the question. But again, he got it. Well, whatever. Yeah, he got it right.
But if you come out to one of my trivia nights, yeah, I'm giving you that one. All right.
Okay, there we go. One. All right, good to know. Mark Zuckerberg's personal challenge. He does this every year. He challenges himself to something. I think one point it was to eat everything. Eat only what he would kill himself, like he did that one year. Another year was to learn Mandarin, which he has done very well. Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
Dude, you got to look it up, man. I'll see if I can find it for you. Let me see. Now you got me intrigued because I love this video. There we go. While that loads, Mark Zuckerberg's personal challenge is all about fixing Facebook before it implodes. Mark Zuckerberg is arguably the public face of the internet we never chose, but also the one we deserve based on all the time we spend using Facebook products. At some point, Facebook became so big that Zuckerberg's personal challenges became news. And this year's personal challenge is not personal at all. It's all about work. In 2017, Zuckerberg wanted to meet and listen to people in all 50 states, and if you live outside of the U.S., sorry, but Zuck doesn't care. In 2014, he learned Mandarin. In 2016, he built a personal AI assistant for his house, which I'm sure will be rolled out to the public at some point. The most impressive one is probably his 2015 personal challenge. During that year, Zuck read not one, not two, but 25 books. But the party's over. It's time to get back to work. Facebook has faced many challenges in 2017, and Zuckerberg wants to acknowledge that the message has been received. Many believe that the social network hasn't done enough to block fake news and Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election, and terrorists take advantage of online platforms to recruit new terrorists. Online abuse has never been so bad, and people are realizing that mindlessly browsing a newsfeed is a pure waste of time. The world feels anxious and divided, and Facebook has a lot of work to do, whether it's protecting our community from abuse and hate, defending against interference by nation states, or making sure that time spent on Facebook is well spent, Zuckerberg wrote. My personal challenge for 2018 is to focus on fixing these important issues. We won't prevent all mistakes or abuse, but we currently make too many errors enforcing our policies and preventing misuse of our tools. If we're successful this year, then we'll end 2018 on a much better trajectory. It's hard to think that a company that has basically taken over the internet would be self-aware enough to realize that they still have a lot of work to do. They have over 2 billion users.
I don't know. He seems to have that personality, though. That acumen, that special insight.
Well, the people that know him, the people that are closest to him will tell you that he is one of the most emotionally aware people that you'll ever meet. Like, okay. He gets human emotion. Like, he gets, and it doesn't seem that way because he up until recently he's been a very awkward guy, but he gets that. Like, and that explains a lot of his business moves.
Well, we need more empathetic people that understand humans and human emotions in those kind of positions than the psychopaths that gravitate towards being CEOs and whatnot.
Yeah. So here, let me pull up, and then which one's the computer over here? Is it the second one or
no, the farthest one on the right?
Oh, the farthest one on the right.
Over there you go. Sure. That gravitate towards being.
Yeah. So here, let me pull up. Hold on, because I got the computer over here. Is it the second one or the
farthest? See, now you know how it feels.
Yeah.
So that's when I asked you, usually cut to you over here, and I'll stall while you're doing whatever you're doing. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Wake.Show. My name is Fisher, and this is Jonny Torres' last day. If you'd like to go ahead and leave comments right now in the comment section, Jonny Torres will be singing one last karaoke song before he leaves. We're leaning towards My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
He's definitely got that crooner voice about him. But go ahead.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. And so we'll set up the old karaoke box.
I'm going to also hit Roy up and see if he's going to be joining us here.
Yeah, talk some movies. Get Roy in here. Chat it up with him.
Yeah.
All right, you good? How's that?
So this is up again. I found this to be the most fascinating one, and to think that we almost had a president that could speak Mandarin. John Huntsman, who was a presidential candidate, and made a name for himself, and then kind of vanished after that. But John Huntsman was also someone who spoke proficient Mandarin, as I believe he was ambassador to
I think the reason
China.
that John Huntsman disappeared and some of those other candidates is because Trump. Once Trump started to dominate the headlines, nobody gave a damn that this guy could speak Mandarin or anybody else could do anything.
Well, Huntsman ran in 12. Huntsman didn't run in 16.
I retract everything I just said.
but good try. Let's see here. So this video is fascinating to me.
Now let's introduce the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg.
Don't play it too long without interrupting it.
Yeah.
All right, pause.
Yeah. All right, you get the idea.
You make somebody laugh. You make a group of people laugh in another language. That's something,
dude. You've got it. Like it doesn't matter how terrible you are. If they're understanding you enough to make them laugh within context,
right? Because that's timing. That's a whole different ballgame.
Sure, and it seems he's comfortable in it. It seems like he's really comfortable in it.
So the reason you're telling us all these great things that he does every single year is just to make every other person watching feel inferior? Jeez.
Of course. Why else would you? Why else would you learn Mandarin if not to make everybody feel inferior?
Jeez.
That's why I speak Spanish, right? No.
Do you?
No.
How's your ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Bueno, aquí la lucha.
I won't go any further than that because we've tried that before.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you can, but you'll get the same stuff from me.
Yeah.
Arroz con pollo, vaca frita.
¿Y cómo te sientes hoy?
Sí. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's hard to think that something that we use every day, and for the most part, I would say works fairly well and continues to grow in popularity, is something that he would want to tinker with. But I've also always said that the reason that MySpace vanished or became obsolete was because they didn't tinker with it, and they didn't improve on it, and they didn't roll out new features. And so while it's one of these things, kind of like Steve Jobs said, that the consumer doesn't know what they want. And
MySpace, it got too gaudy. It got too busy. I feel like they were if they were doing any upgrading, it was constantly to play to the teenager.
Well, no, those were all flaws. Those were all things that were in the software, in the programming, that they never intended for it to be used that way.
Oh, because you're right. You could hack it. And even people like me could go in, copy this code, copy that code. Next thing you know, you've changed your background.
Right, exactly.
And I've bedazzled my entire page.
And so what a lot of people don't know is that any given time, and he said this in an interview, at any given point, there are about 10,000 versions of Facebook running simultaneously. So while we see Facebook as a singular entity, there are about 10,000 versions of Facebook running that engineers are working on new features with. And so whether it's messaging, whether it's video calling, whether it's local listings, all these kind of new features that are back there, there's stuff out there that people don't even realize is there. Like I showed you the map of all the live streaming that's going on.
Right.
And
will you show me something new about that damn Facebook? Like every couple of days, every week. Because did you know you can merge all your old pages into one?
Right.
No, I didn't.
Right, and that's the thing. People don't realize there are thousands of versions of Facebook running simultaneously, where they are constantly testing and rolling out new features. And that was the downfall of MySpace, was that it never evolved. It never. Sure, you could customize it and things like that, which got annoying, but that was also because you had to go to people's pages to socialize with them, to engage with them. The news feed what was transformative about Facebook, and
so you didn't have to hop around to everybody else's page. You could sit on your own and see everybody else's page.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it was the lack of new features and new things to do while you were on the platform that eventually led to its demise. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. While I wait to see if Roy's going to be joining us here, let's go ahead and do stuff you should know. All right. So, stuff you should know for January 5th, 2018. In what I'm assuming is a brisk, about 40-degree weather by now, Tampa Bay region. Monster nor'easter hammered the East Coast Thursday, bringing more than a foot of snow, leaving thousands without power and stranding still more air travelers as flights were canceled up and down the coast. The storm also pushed high tide to near record levels, prompting Boston's mayor to plead with drivers to stay off roads as parts of the city reported flooding in unexpected places. Forecasters expected the storm to be followed immediately by a blast of brutal cold that could break records in more than 24 cities this weekend. And you can kind of see that is a live weather system visualization there we have kind of going on in the background. And so it doesn't look like things are going to be letting up anytime soon. Well, this certainly didn't take long. The Dow closed above 25,000 for the first time ever Thursday, just 4 days into the new year and 5 weeks after blowing past 24,000. Economists say you name it, and it may have factored into the rise. Oh, I got it, you see. From the job market to housing to tax reform and even the weather. The question is now, how long until we see a 30,000 Dow? And again, while I love to see the economy succeeding as it has and continuing to grow, what goes up must come down, and that's when things are going to get real interesting. The publisher of Michael Wolff's new book about President Donald Trump announced it will be released earlier than expected. Due to unprecedented demand, we are moving the on-sale date for all formats of Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff to Friday, January 5th, 9 a.m. That is in 25 minutes. From the current on-sale date, which was originally Tuesday, January 9th, a spokeswoman said for the book's publisher. Henry Holt told CNN on Thursday the decision came almost immediately after one of Trump's lawyers sent a cease and desist letter to Henry Holt and Wolff demanding the book not be released. And there's also some fine legal paperwork heading out to Mr. Steve Bannon as well, so get your popcorn ready. The owner of a building where 2 security guards fatally shot 2 teens. Was it 2 teens or 2 people? I think it was 2 teens, right?
It was 2 people. It was first reported as 2 teens because it was a teen party, but the male was 25.
Oh, he was 25, right?
Yeah, he was 25. She was 15.
She was 15. Got it. Okay, so the owner of a building where 2 security guards fatally shot 2 people after a party for teens on New Year's Day never got approval from the county to host the New Year's Teen Pajama Jam. So that story continuing to develop there.
You want to know why? Because if they had gone to the county and said, hey, we want to put on a New Year's teen pajama jam, the county would have went, what the F did you just say? No, sir. Not only are you not going to get a permit to put on a New Year's teen pajama party, but we're going to arrest you right now and throw you right in prison, you pedophile. Sorry, my bad.
The 2 security guards still have not been charged with anything as the investigation continues.
Well, they might not be. I mean, there was witnesses say that shots were fired from that vehicle. They found 2 weapons, 2 guns in that car. So I have a feeling that the security guards were justified in their shooting.
All right, and Fisher not having to pumping up his chest a little bit this morning as he feels he no longer has to worry about his Diet Coke addiction. Teresa Rowley of Grand Rapids, Michigan, just celebrated another birthday on January 1st, 2018, and she's sharing her secret to longevity, drinking lots and lots of Diet Coke. She consumes at least 1 can a day and has no intentions of slowing down. I drink it because I like it. The centenarian told WZZM, I'm going shopping Wednesday, and I need more Diet Coke.
I'm gonna have to get a divorce because I finally found my soulmate. She's 104.
Do it. Sugar mamas, man. That's where it's at. I have a bag full of empty Diet Coke cans that I need to return to buy more Diet Coke. Teresa was born in 1914, a whole 68 years before the soda's debut. I believe it's the number 2 soda in the world, or is it number 1 now? But I know it's right up there with regular Coke, and then Pepsi, I believe, is now 3rd. The Tampa Bay Lightning's win streak came to an end when the Canadiens' Paul Byron scored in a shootout, and Montreal beat the Lightning 2-1 on Thursday night. I was hoping to play that Lightning theme today, as kind of a little going away thing, but don't want to celebrate a loss. They will be hosting the NHL All-Star Game, though, right here at the Amalie Arena, and our very own Steven Stamkos, as we talked about yesterday, will be the captain for the Atlantic Division team. So very cool all around for the Tampa Bay region. And as somebody said on Twitter the other day, Mayor Buckhorn, get that parade route ready because I think we got a Stanley Cup coming back to Tampa.
Yes, sir.
So that'll be pretty exciting. Haven't heard from Roy, so we're going to have to kind of... I know. But, one of the things that I love, and I think there's a void to be met here, and it's one of the things that we're seeing on Facebook a lot, is people who are looking for Netflix recommendations. It's one of those things that it just shows you what a juggernaut Netflix has become.
And they have all this original programming
Sure.
that's not getting as much mainstream attention as, of course, the stuff in the networks because the networks want to promo their own stuff.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for Netflix buying as much advertising as they do, I'm sure they'd be shutting them out completely. But hearing a lot of great things about the new Dave Chappelle stand-up comedy special. There was a website out there that was trying to stir up some controversy about him.
Hey, man.
But
sorry. That was a horrible Dave Chappelle.
No, that was I got it. I actually got that one. So there's the Dave Chappelle. Some people like The Ranch. I haven't checked out The Ranch. Have you checked out The Ranch?
Is that the Ashton Kutcher one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of that, and I think I told you. I think I brought it up. I watched a couple episodes of that, and I think that that Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson bring down that show.
Really?
Yes, because you've got I think Sam Shepard, is that his name?
Sam Shepard.
And then I forget the female on the show, but they're such strong actors and good comedic actors as well. And I feel like that show would be a much better show if they got rid. Well, Danny Masterson is out because of the alleged
allegations,
sexual assault allegations. But Ashton Kutcher, in all due respect, I mean, he has his place in society and in entertainment. But I think the show would be much better if it weren't for him.
I think Kutcher's just made smart moves. I don't think he's that great. There's something
he's got there. Love him, right? There is something that he is a charismatic personality.
He's charismatic, but he's not funny. Like even on that 70s show, it was a very kind of over the top, cheesy character, but was typically not the funniest person on that show.
I didn't watch that show because of him. I watched it because of Mila Kunis.
Hey, see, and I watched it for Laura Prepon.
Hey, that wasn't too bad either.
So, so there's the ranch, and then again, I've been talking a lot about Black Mirror because it's now, I believe, on its 3rd season. And Black Mirror, for those of you who may have been Twilight Zone aficionados, it is very much like the Twilight Zone. It is, I would say, of the quality of the Twilight Zone, in the quality of writing, in the quality of directing. The stories are fantastic. Each episode is a standalone episode. There's no continuity.
All right, you have to give me, because you brought this up a couple times now.
Yeah. And the one I watched the other day was directed by Jodie Foster too. Which all
right, what was that one about?
That one was a little creepy because it hit home. It was about.
But isn't that the thing about this show, is that they all hit home in a weird way?
Sure, yeah, because they're all a reflection on society, right? They're all a reflection of our culture. And so take the Twilight Zone and then add a 21st century twist to it, which is technology and electronics. And now you have what is Black Mirror. And so they talk about nanotechnology and drones. And so there's an episode where there's all these little drones that are the size that are actually bees. They mechanized bees. So cool. And beehives, and then someone weaponizes them against the population. So there's that. There's also an episode from the 1st season where our culture is based on a rating system, and so as people interact on a daily basis, you rate them based on that interaction on a scale of 1 to 5. And based on your score, that determines your place in life, determines the quality of job that you have. It determines where you can hang out. It determines a lot of other factors in your life just based on how other people rate you. And so people become obsessed with their score. People become obsessed with their rating system because it affects their life so much.
I can so see this happening, man, where all of a sudden it's got turned, where instead of the consumer being the one that is choosing which brands they want in their lives, the brands, the corporations are choosing which customers they want to be associated with their brand.
Yeah. Paul saying, I guess he caught the Lightning game. He says, what a game it was. Of course, Canadien.
Well, speaking of which, Sarah, our friend in Minnesota,
she
posted this morning that, where is she here? She goes, Jeezums H. I just had to explain to my 13-year-old daughter what abortion is. She didn't know. Thanks to some D-bag with an abortion is murder sign shouting at cars by the high school where I dropped my son off.
Jeez.
Thanks, nutbag. I hope you freeze to death. She goes, it's -9 out there. Can I get him arrested because he's clearly mentally unstable?
Look, do we have a right to protest? Yes, absolutely. Please, by all means, if that's how you feel that you need to get things off your chest, go ahead and do it. But pick these places more appropriately. And for those of you who maybe have not ever been politically active and are maybe choosing to do so, let me tell you up front that protests accomplish very little. Unless you're talking about the civil rights movement, unless you're talking about major protests. How many protests did we have last year after the inauguration?
All
these
of them.
Marches. I think everybody took a turn around Washington, D.C.
Hey, I even got involved in a protest.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because
Did you wear the little pink hat?
a couple of days after the election, my wife and I were in California.
Yeah.
And so we're in Hollywood on was it Sunset Strip or Hollywood Boulevard, one of those. And next thing you know, like this, group of a few dozen people are chanting and marching. And so I hit record on my phone. And I was like, well, I as an American, I almost feel like
you're watching democracy in action,
right? And I realized that I hadn't protested anything since they took something out of our off the menu back in high school for lunch or something, and
they canceled Pizza Day.
I think it was something like that. And then we all thought we were going to get something accomplished by not sitting in our chairs. We were all going to sit on the floor that day and eat our tater tots. So I hop in line there, and I was like, all right, I'll march with this protest for a little bit. But they walk too fast, and I can't do that. It was going to turn into exercise if I tried to keep up with the group, and I did not go all the way to California for exercise.
Well, look, part of the reason why the opportunity came about for me to join Senator Marco Rubio's office was because the office that he did have, he's had two offices here in the region. One of them was on the campus of USF, and then there was one that he had most recently here in the West Shore district, diagonal from West Shore Plaza. And the reason that this opportunity came about was because the protests were so incessant that they had to shut down the office. They got kicked out of both of the office buildings that they were previously at because they were disturbing the other tenants, and they were taking up parking, and they were, and so did it accomplish anything? No, it didn't accomplish anything. And that's my point.
It shut down his office. He wasn't able to find a space.
But that is at a detriment to the community. Because, again, the Senate office provides services to the constituents of the Tampa Bay region. And by shutting down the office, now we're here at almost a year since that last office was shut down, where this community has not been served by its senator. And so the protests, again, either have no effect or have a negative effect on what happens around them. And so they disturbed people's workplace. They took up parking at this particular office building for the people who were actually there to be productive. And that's not the way that things get accomplished.
Are you going to have like personal security and stuff like that?
I don't want to disclose yet where the office is going to be, but yes, there's going to be plenty of security.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so my point is that if
are you going to be packing heat going to work every day?
No, unfortunately, I will not. I've never felt the need to. Even though, hey, you want to own a gun, go right ahead. But up until now, I've never felt the need to, and I've lived in Miami, and so if I haven't felt the need to own a gun at 38 years old, I think I'll be all right. What I will say is that what is effective is calls, phone calls, emails, letters. Do reach out to your elected officials and let your opinion be heard. They do read those emails. They do listen to those voicemails. They will call you back. They will write you back. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that regardless of party affiliation, if you write a letter, write an email, make a phone call, they will listen to you. Now, don't half-ass it. Don't go to one of these websites where all you got to do is plug in your name and hit send, and it sends a letter for you. That gets ignored automatically. I will tell you that. But anyone who has worked in a legislative capacity for an elected official will tell you that emails, letters, and phone calls are effective.
Are any one of those more effective than another? Like if you went old school and it's a handwritten, or not handwritten, but typed out, on letterhead and that kind of thing, is that more effective than an email?
I'd say the most effective would be scheduling an appointment. Get an appointment.
What?
These are offices. That's been probably the most gratifying part about being involved in politics for me, is that these people are very accessible. If you get involved in the process, you will meet your senators, your congressmen, your county commissioners, whoever it is that you feel that you need to develop a relationship with. They are incredibly accessible, and you can schedule an appointment with these people. Now, once you get to the federal level, right, obviously Senator Rubio spends a lot of time in D.C., and Florida is a big state. So you may not be sitting down with Senator Rubio, but you may sit down with someone like myself who has a direct line to him, who does report back to him as to what the issues are of the constituency that he serves.
All right, well, can you get me, can I sit down with Jeff Sessions? He and I need to talk.
I heard about that, about the marijuana.
Son of a bitch.
I'll let you handle that one.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions has pulled off something that would have been unthinkable just a few years back. He managed to rally Republican lawmakers behind weed. So marijuana.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting because even Republicans are giving him a little pushback on that. So
Sessions announced on Thursday he would be rescinding a policy from the Obama administration that had discouraged prosecutors in states where marijuana was legalized from bringing charges for marijuana-related crimes unless they involve distribution to minors, revenue sale benefiting gangs, or cartels, and a few other federal priorities. In its place, federal prosecutors would be given discretion, not guidance, to pursue marijuana-related prosecutions. Oh, good. What a great use of our resources, financially and otherwise.
Well, I mean, it would just be the DEA doing what they've been doing probably for about 40 years. So
right, go focus on marijuana, and no other problems in America get resolved, including the marijuana one.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot. The times have changed. He's going to get a lot of pushback on that. I don't think he's going to get very far. Cords writes in. He goes, all the sexual harassment protests in Hollywood have been overwhelming, and I'm sure he'd asterisk that and put sarcasm in quotes. Because it's funny. It's been pretty quiet. Other than that Meryl Streep one, which I thought was very clever, that Meryl Streep protest.
Yeah, I mean that's not nothing. If you don't know what he's talking about, this is an artist had taken Meryl Streep's image, was it red tape over her eyes with "She Knew" or something like that, and then put these posters up around Hollywood and Los Angeles.
Sure. And then what's weird is that she's then, to try to take some of the heat off of herself, she has tried to deflect that same argument on Melania and Ivanka Trump, and so far it's not getting very far. She's not getting much out of that. But Paul, again, our Canadian friend, writing in, he says Canada's moving forward with legalizing marijuana. Huge debate. If it's going to happen in Canada, it's going to be under Trudeau. He's soft enough, and he's I think liberal enough to make it happen. And you know,
what's your view on that?
I've never taken part in it,
but just the decriminalization of it.
No, I don't. I think prescription drugs and alcohol, in my opinion, are far more dangerous to us as a culture, as a society, than marijuana is, and I don't have a problem with either one of those. So I would just kind of classify it in that capacity. Again, the people that are out there overdosing and that sort of stuff, they're doing it on prescription drugs, or they're doing it on the heavy stuff, so ecstasy and cocaine and heroin and other opioids and that sort of thing. That should be Sessions' focus, should be the opioid epidemic, not marijuana.
It is so sad because this is politics. He's doing this because of their political base, and this resonates. This plays very well to a lot of social conservatives out there. But this really advances nothing. This helps America in no way whatsoever. If they really wanted to do something, they would stick to the plans that they started talking about at the beginning of the year and go after and tackle this. You know what it is? It's because the opioid epidemic, then they also have to tackle pharmaceuticals. They have to go after money. They have to talk about the capitalistic effects of this kind of stuff. But marijuana, that's easy.
Well, but also as a country, we're still, again, it goes back to us being a young country. We're still learning the effects of marijuana on our society. We're starting just now to see, okay, what are the somewhat long-term effects of legalized marijuana? And
legalize it and we'll find out.
Well, we're finding out in Colorado. And so, we're finding that there's been an increase in homelessness. All right, well, is that a direct correlation to marijuana, or is it not? Or have homeless people move there because they want to partake in recreational marijuana. And
Yeah, if you're gonna be homeless, you might as well be high.
so who knows? I mean, I think everything in moderation, right? And that's no different. I think that it's all about balance. So, yeah, Paul's saying that I guess Trudeau was the one who brought it in, but the medical industry, police, and lots of other people are pushing back on it. So Canada also struggling with this a little bit, but again, I think as we grow to learn more about it and the effects, and I think eventually there'll be technology developed where they'll be able to detect, because right now that's an issue too, that if you have been smoking marijuana and you are pulled over, there's no way for them to test you for that. Right. And even to what extent you are impaired is still somewhat of a gray area. But it's again, I doubt that I will ever partake in my life, and but I've known plenty of people that have and do, and I don't know. I just I don't see the big deal. I'm far more concerned with someone who gets hooked on prescription medications
because they think it's safe because their doctor started them on it.
Sure.
Here's a bottle, and I make sure that I give you 3 months worth. Why? Because you'll get addicted. Then you'll come back, and you'll keep coming back to me.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I know that's not what doctors are doing. There was only a handful of those pricks out there doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of them were here in Florida.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and one of them, I don't know if you recall, one of these pill mill operators, a doctor, tried to represent herself, which you would think that she's intelligent.
Yeah.
She's a doctor, for
right.
God's sakes. But sometimes these people are so smart that they think they can finagle, that they can make their way through the illegal system.
Yeah.
And it is not as easy as you think it is.
Look, some of the people that I know that are advocates for legalizing marijuana, they were pushing hard on the medical front, and this was the fear that Republicans had, was that if you push through medical marijuana, then they're going to continue to push on through to recreational marijuana, because
it's a slippery
that was the
slope
goal.
argument. Right.
No, but that was the goal. That is the goal. I mean, if you talk to John Morgan, who put millions of dollars into this campaign, that's his goal. He'll tell you up front that he smokes marijuana, and he's also a known alcoholic.
I also like to use the term decriminalize. I'd like to decriminalize marijuana. I don't know if
Yeah, I get
so that's a
behind that
citation
too.
Or something like
Sure.
that. Not a tool to get young people and poor people thrown back in prison for the 10th time.
Right. Well, and again, it's not any more harmful than alcohol or prescription medications, yet we're throwing people in jail for it.
Right.
So I'm sure that's going to continue to be the case, but I don't know. People seem to, the other issue that's floating around D.C. right now is immigration reform. Trump seems pretty focused on this right now. It seems like this may be the next notch on the belt that he's going to be going after. And of course, everybody's who follows that issue closely is concerned about the Dreamers, right? The DREAM Act, or the DACA recipients. And really, I think what's interesting there is that he's trying to negotiate. So, in other words, he'll give the Dreamers what they want if he is able to get the border wall as part of the bill.
Yeah, he's trying to cut some deal with the Democrats, like, hey, you support me on this wall thing, and I'll support you on the DACA thing or DACA thing.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's already quite a bit of the border that is fenced. And they call it a wall, but it'll probably be more like a fence and that sort of thing. I mean, regardless, I still don't see it happening. I think it's going to be a lot easier said than done. But at the end of the day, he does need to address the people who are here on this DACA temporary status, and that's going to be a big point. But again, this is where our kind of arrogance, our self-centeredness as a country kind of comes into play. Most Americans, other than the people who get worked up about whether or not they're taking jobs, don't care. They don't care about immigration. I mean, look, there are even Hispanics that don't care about immigration reform because they came here legally. And so it's also a myth that just because you're Hispanic, well, you must care about immigration reform. No, negative. The people, in most Hispanics, and poll after poll has proven this, that immigration reform doesn't even crack the top 5 they typically care about the same issues everybody else cares about: education, transportation, health, the economy, but they get put in this little box when it comes to immigration simply because they come from another country. Well, if you came here legally, you have nothing to worry about, so you could care less about immigration reform, or if anything, you're actually pro immigration reform and you want to see the immigration tightened up, because what happens when more of these people come into the country is that they take a lot of these lower wage entry level jobs, and so really the people who should have an issue with it are the people in the lower class. So a lot of you people working these minimum wage jobs, those are the people that should be worried about immigration reform, because they come, the people who do come here illegally are taking these lower wage jobs, these entry level jobs, and affecting those in the lower class. Anyway, sorry.
Well, to the USA, let's go to USA Today here. President Trump said Thursday he's open to a deal to protect some undocumented immigrants from deportation, but only if enough Democrats back the wall with Mexico and other proposals on immigration. Quote, if we have support from the Democrats, I think DACA is going to be terrific. So here's the issue. Now you can't sit there and argue that DACA is not good for America, because now the president's saying it is good, but only if you support the wall. It's not good if you don't support the wall. So it takes some sting out of an argument that the DACA thing is bad for America. Also, I do not like any kind of suspending of the DACA or kicking any of those people out that we said could stay. And I do appreciate and I understand the argument going, that's BS because Obama never went through Congress to get this done. This was an executive order. Fair enough. But as America, okay, it's almost like you have two parents. If Obama's one parent and Trump's the other parent, one parent says something and the kids react to it and act a certain way, then the other parent comes in and goes, no, you can't do that, and beats the shit out of them. So this falls on America. So let's say Obama did do the wrong thing. He shed it, that's okay, too late. He did. So whoever's here, we're going to honor the program that we laid out for you. If you want to cut it off at some point and say nobody else after this, that's fine, or whatever you want to do there. But the kids that are already here, the kids that already came out of the shadows, as they say, to then go back after them is something that I don't want to be a part of as an American.
Yeah, look, the problem that we have on the right is that people are absolutists, right? At the grassroots level, like they don't want these people who are here illegally to be allowed to stay. And the truth of the matter is that not only is it unrealistic to deport all of those people, is that also as a fiscal conservative, it's very easy to make the case that you wouldn't want the government spending the millions upon millions of dollars that it would take to deport everybody. And even as Obama was nicknamed the deporter in chief because of the high number of people that were deported under his administration, you would still not be able to do it at a rate high enough to stop the number of people who are coming in and overstaying their visas. Because that's the other thing. It's not like people are crossing the border. The border is simply a symbol, right, for the problem that is our broken immigration program. A lot of the people that are here illegally because they've overstayed visas. They come on tourist visas and then they stay afterwards, and again trying to navigate the immigration system, and then they'll claim any number of statuses to try to stay here and gain residency.
And listen, I'm not a big fan of what they call this chain migration thing. Just because you're related to somebody else, you get one foot in America and you can start just bringing over whatever family member you want. I don't like that. I understand. I appreciate the thought behind it, the compassion that is allegedly behind something like that.
Yeah.
But why us? No other country does something like that. You have to meet certain standards in order to get in.
And
you have
that's
to be able
also
to contribute to society.
Right.
But it seems like there are those in politics that feel like America is so unjust that they want to take everybody else from other third world countries and bring them here and put them on the dole. All right, once you come here and you become a welfare recipient and just sit there and suck off the teat of America for the rest of your days.
Well, and that was,
you got to come here and contribute. You can't come here and just sit.
Well, and that was the thing, and I don't know if this passed, but I know they've been pushing for it. So the Miami delegation, of all people, are pushing to end the automatic granting of welfare benefits to Cuban refugees because of their political status, and so they come here as political refugees, right? And so as soon as they arrived in the United States, they were automatically granted the ability to claim welfare benefits. What was recently found out over the past few years was that they were coming here claiming these welfare benefits and then setting it up to where they would go to like a residence home or something like that. And then they would actually go back to Cuba, and then they would start funneling that money back to themselves or their family back in Cuba. And so they're trying to put a stop to that because obviously that's fraud, right? And they're taking advantage of the system. But the truth is that the problem has to be resolved. And what I tell people on my side of the aisle is that if we don't fix immigration, the other side will. And we're not going to like what they put forward.
And not only that, but if you want to talk about this, if you want to go down this path, and I know you're more political than I am, but we're going to have to talk about comprehensive reform.
Sure.
And it's not just about the immigrants, okay? This is about those on this side of the border who are exploiting and taking advantage of that so you and I can have tomatoes for 50 cents.
Sure, right. And that's the conflict we see in a lot of rural areas because, again, these rural areas are typically very Republican. And so they are torn because they obviously, from a political standpoint, are against immigration reform. But again, many of these farmers and the agricultural industry as a whole benefits greatly from what they call migrant workers. Now, there are farms that are very good about because they also fear, right, the legal ramifications of hiring illegal immigrants. So they're good about it, but it's still a major industry that continues to prolong this problem because they are willing to do it.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I know you're much more into politics than I am. But when George Bush was in office, this is one of the things that he was going to tackle: comprehensive immigration reform. Who better to do that than a two-time governor? I think he was.
Yep.
Of the state of Texas. Who better to tackle it? But then something happened. What happened? Because it never came to be. I'll tell you what happened. This is my opinion anyway. The lobbyists, the farmers, corporate, whoever's involved in that kind of stuff said, Mr. Bush, Mr. President, if you go down this path and you try to do what you're going to do, you are going to disrupt the economy fundamentally at the most fundamental levels. Remember, America was built on the backs of slaves. We continue to prosper on the backs of slave labor in China. Most of our stuff bought from China, and that's slave labor. And
other countries
what? India?
In comparison, yeah. I mean, again, you name it. I mean, there's any number of countries that by our standards would be considered slave labor.
And so if you try to pull the rug out from under this, the economy is going to suffer. America will not have its place in the world that it once had. That's what I think happened back between 2000 and 2008.
Well, and Cords makes a good point in the comments section, which is that there are very legal farming programs. And so, yeah, there's a lot of options for migrant workers to work here legally. And so there's no excuse for this really, because they don't have to be illegal farm workers. And so that's the thing is that
and we're just talking about people that
again, being from a family of South Florida, you're going to meet people who are staying here illegally or come here illegally and then eventually try to navigate the immigration system to gain legal status through a variety of methods. And
which, by the way, I can't blame if you're anybody coming that's living in a third world country or those kind of conditions, or you're a place where you're being oppressed, or you feel fear for your life and your family's life every single day. I do not blame anybody for doing whatever they have to do to try to improve their circumstances.
You're exactly right. But again, no one that I know personally has ever come to this country to go work in the agricultural industry. No. And so that's also a very large stereotype that those people are coming here and and strictly for those kind of jobs, because they're not. Especially now with Venezuela, we're seeing a lot of Venezuelans come over, who, these are very educated people. These are very, in some cases, very wealthy people. We're seeing cardiologists and doctors and engineers and people that are now taking entry-level jobs because that's all they can get because of the language barrier and other educational barriers.
But it's so because they're setting up the next generation. They're setting up for their kids. Not only are they escaping someplace that they're in fear of their life or whatever the situation was, but they get that. I know that a woman that I dated who was first generation Cuban or American from Cuba, her parents came over with that wave of people that came over as Castro was taking over, and her father was somebody who was established as a police officer, had a business, this and this and this, and he comes here, has to start all over. He's a bellhop at a hotel. Very educated man is a bellhop at a hotel. He starts over. But you don't regret that. You know what you're doing. You're going to sacrifice yourself now for your children's future. I'm going to go work in the fields now so that my kids don't have to.
Yeah.
And they'll have an opportunity at that the American education system and university system.
Well, and to wrap this up on a positive spin, that is a major reason as to why I'm a big fan of Senator Rubio, who I'll be going to work for on Monday, is because his family came over, left everything behind in Cuba. They came here. His father was a bartender. His mother was a housekeeper. And it's his story that he tells very often. And in no other country could you say that someone with that sort of start in life would go on to become a U.S. senator.
Right.
And it's very parallel to my parents' story. My dad came over and worked in the sweatshops of Hialeah. And although my mom came over as a teenager, my grandfather came over and became a superintendent.
So did your mom have to do any hooking early on in life? Was she at a? You know what? I am joking. I'm joking,
Yes.
really. But the reality is, for all new cultures that are coming in here, if you go back to the German, the Irish, people did what they had to do to make it to the next day, to pay their bills, to put food in the mouths. And our ancestors, my great-great-great-great-grandfather, grandmother, I guarantee you, I go back to those times, I'm going to find stuff that they did that I either go, ooh, I didn't expect that out of my ancestry, or I'm going to feel disgusting that they put themselves through something just so they could put their food in the mouths of their kids.
Well, like Ben Affleck's ancestors, having been slave owners. I mean, did you hear about that?
No.
Oh, he did one of those TV shows where they kind of look up your family history and kind of.
They blindsided with, like, he didn't know?
He didn't know. Family was slave owners. Oh, that was brutal. You got to look that up. But no, she came over as a teenager and did high school and all that stuff, and got not a college degree, but she got some sort of a technical degree, I guess, in to be an administrative assistant and that sort of thing, and kind of the rest is history from that point. Anyhow, thank you so much again for watching the show. Again, if you want to do the setup here for this, and I'll kind of lead us out, please, again, the success of this show depends on those of you watching it. You can support the show by commenting, by liking, by sharing. You can also visit our website, thewake.show, not .com, .show. Thewake.show is our website. And please subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search for thewake.show. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, which we don't talk about, but we got to get some. We'll take a picture today and post it on Instagram. And so we're on Instagram now, and then of course, thank you to everybody who watches us here every single day on our Facebook page.
All right.
Fish are going to continue to navigate the ship here.
Scoot over, buddy. Scoot over.
He's going to. Where there may be a little bit of a carousel of co-hosts. At least that's kind of the plan, and we'll see. I'm very excited for this project. I wholeheartedly believe in the trajectory of this show. We'll continue to have not only some great content for you, but there's also some great sponsors who are lining up behind this show, thanks to this guy right here. And so thank you to everybody who, again, believes in what we're doing here, because it allows me to kind of leave on a high note. So,
All right, so are you ready? You got it up over there?
yeah, it's up.
Your words will be right there.
Oh, got it. Let me move this over so I can get this a little closer.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
Nothing. There it goes. Can you hear it? Oh, did it go off the screen? Ow. Holy crap. Hold on. Let's start that over. Here we go. All right. That was weird. And now the end is near. And so I face the final curtain. My friends, I say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I planned each chartered course, each careful step on the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all of that. And may I say, not in a shy way. Oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The records show I took the blows and did it my
Tears in my eyes, man. I got tears in my eyes.
Woo!
Well done.
Man,
Here we go, bring it home.
oh, first time for me too. Kind of hits home there. Yes, it was my way.
I feel like you're singing at your own funeral or something, like you're going away forever.
Woo, man, that hit a little harder than I expected.
I did make, Jonny has a very powerful voice, I guess, as you probably can tell on your end, although it's very compressed on your end. And here in the studio, I took off my headphones, so I can't hear the music. I can only hear his voice. And it is booming. It fills the room. And I can't lie, there towards the end, I start, now granted, it's easy to get me to, my eyes to get a little leaky, but my eyes did get a little leaky there at the end.
Well, hopefully maybe this video will be around whenever my day comes, and that'd be very cool to have them play that.
Jeez. That's what was played at my pop's funeral.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be the way to go, right? With it'd be a little surreal to be singing at your own funeral, but that'd be kind of cool too. Anyhow,
all right. So from Annabelle, this was the last song played at my wedding. From Lisa, she says, "Thank you for the great morning show."
Oh man, thank you, man. That's really sweet.
She says, "Mr. Rubio is lucky to have you." He goes, "I'm happy for you and sad you're going. Mr. Rubio better know he's getting a gem of a person."
Yeah, well, thank you to everybody again for watching the show. I'll be watching the show, and don't be surprised if I sneak in from time to time. So.
Oh yeah, and then Sarah writes, "I bet Fisher's already got you booked to come back and guest host next week."
Oh, we're talking about it, so I'll definitely be checking in from time to time. But man, I'm really excited to see where this goes because again, this is a very special thing we've put together here, and obviously I'm sending it off and kind of handing it off far earlier than I ever expected to, but I know that there are great things in store for you and for this show, and I really thank you for believing not only in me to be able to co-host this with you, but also I know that I speak for the team here at Bake More Pies for taking a chance on us, an agency who doesn't come from a bad broadcasting background, and trusting your reputation and your skill set with us.
Well, that's their mistake. Dude, it's been a pleasure working with you. I know these are the last just a few moments before you will go on to your next venture. It really has been an honor to work with you. I've only known you since August, and I'm tearing up already because you're that big of a personality. You've got that big of a heart.
Thank you.
It's nice to see that someone's going off into politics that has the compassion that you do and the want to do good in the community. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you, Fish, and that means a lot. Again, been a fan, been a fan like many of the people watching long before you and I ever met, and I'll continue to be so. And so, thank you again for everybody. Thank you again to Chords for also giving me such an immense amount of creative freedom and believing in me as an individual and my skill set and really. Supporting me in every way possible to be able to pull something like this off. And so thank you again to everybody for watching. Again, the show's not going anywhere. To keep up, follow us right here on Facebook or at the Wake.Show online. And Fish will be back here on Monday. So thank you everybody for watching, and have a great weekend.